Pistols in an FPS game, especially Call of Duty, are rarely something special, but when they are special, they really leave an impression. But that being said, there's been some absolutely terrible handguns throughout the history of Call of Duty. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. Today, we're going to highlight the worst of the worst. That's right. We're going to talk about what I think are the worst pistols in every single Call of Duty game from COD 4 all the way through Black Ops 7. We're going to start off at COD 4. The M1911, I hate to say that because it's such a legacy pistol, but it was bad. Most of the handguns in COD 4 had the same damage stats, but they only differed from one another in the handling and the magazine size, and since that was the case, the M1911 was far and away the worst in the game. The magazine was super small, the damage wasn't anything to write home about, and the visual recoil was really high for some weird reason. You had the USP-45, you had the M9, they both had better ammo capacity with lower recoil, and then you had the monster known as the Deagle. There just wasn't any real reason to run the M1911 in this game. It was like deliberately giving yourself a handicap, which no COD player wants to give themselves a handicap, right? World at War. The Walther P38. Most of the pistols in World at War had nearly identical stats, and the only differences between them were the handling speeds and the recoil patterns. But if you look back at the World at War era, I think the Walther was the pistol I see the least online because it generally had the most annoying recoil pattern. The damage was okay, the magazine was okay, right? But the recoil was weird, and the reload animation, it was a little on the long side. Other than that, I think it was just fine, as all the other pistols were. It wasn't a bad gun, but somebody had to be the worst in the game, so I'm going to call the P38. Modern Warfare 2 2009. The USP-45. Now, in a game where shotguns were secondaries, who in their right mind would actually take the USP-45 into battle? Seriously. Also in a game with some of the best shotguns and machine pistols in Call of Duty history, who the heck was actually taking the USP into battle with them? I mean, even if you were determined to take a standard handgun into a Modern Warfare 2 lobby, which you weren't, why would you take the USP over the 44 mag or the M9? The M9 had better recoil control, bigger magazine. The 44 mag was a two-shot kill in basically every situation. Why in the world would you ever pick the freaking USP-45 in classic Modern Warfare 2? It was the worst pistol by a landslide. There better not be a debate in the comment on this one. Seriously. Black Ops 1. The ASP, the ASP. The gun that was almost comically bad. Tiny magazine, teeny tiny magazine, horrible damage, and there was no reason to ever actually take this thing into battle. And there was some really strong secondary weapons in this game. You had the Python, you had the CZ75. Why would I take this dinky little stupid one-handed pistol into battle when it only fired 7 times before reloading and needed something like 4 bullets to kill somebody? How did that even make sense? I mean, frankly, the ASP makes a really strong case for being the worst pistol in Call of Duty history. Definitely the worst pistol in this game. Modern Warfare 3 2011. The USP-45. It was your starting pistol in the game, and it really wasn't anything special. I mean, I guess you could say that it could be good in the right hands with the right circumstances, but ultimately, every other secondary weapon in the game was a better choice. It had the smallest default magazine, it had the lowest fire rate cap, it had the highest visual recoil, and it had the smallest number of redeeming qualities. The point-blank damage stats were actually pretty decent, but 9 times out of 10 it was going to be a hit marker machine with some really high visual recoil. This was also in a game with some incredible secondary weapons. You had the MP9, you had the 44 mag, you had the 5.7, you had the FMG9s, I could go on and on. Absolutely nobody was bringing the USP into battle with them unless they literally didn't have anything else unlocked. Black Ops 2. It shouldn't have been this way. The Executioner. It's an easy pick. Black Ops 2 had several of the best pistols in Call of Duty history. The CAP, the B2-3R, the 5.7, the TAC-45, all of them amazing. But then there was this little piece of crap. The Executioner looked cool, sounded cool, had a big sound effect, but the damage was non-existent. A shotgun pistol hybrid that barely did any damage beyond point-blank range and took approximately 5 to 7 business days to reload it. Seriously, why would anybody pick this? And I know there's going to be the randoms in my comments defending this gun, and I'm going to say this. I have to ask. Why? Come on, lay it out for me. The game had some of the best pistols ever, and you're seriously going to stick up for the Executioner? Sometimes there's some of you that I just do not understand. Call of Duty Ghosts. The PDW. The 3-round burst pistol with a terrible fire rate and inconsistent damage profile in a game where the time to kill was nearly instant from basically any range. Think about that for a second. Ghost had a very fast time to kill. And the handguns? They were perfectly acceptable for this kind of game. But for some reason, The PDW was so situational. A lot of people saw it as the worst gun in the game. I mean, this is a game where the standard handguns had low recoil and big mags, and it fired in a 3-round burst with pretty low damage on each of the individual bullets. So this gun needed a lot of precision, and it needed a lot of good timing and a lot of luck. But literally every gun in the game could just spray and pray and get near insta-kill. So what was the point? Why would you ever take the PDW? You wouldn't. Advanced Warfare. The Atlas 45. Your starting handgun in a game that was perfectly fine. Not good, not bad, just fine. I mean, I guess you could say there were some niche secondary weapons in the game. You had the RW1, you had the M1 irons, but at the end of the day, the Atlas gets the spot on the list today because just kind of mediocre. I mean, I suppose you could also say it's a good thing that the worst pistol in the game was fine. It was just forgettable, but here it is. Nobody remembers the gun. If I didn't bring it up, you wouldn't have remembered it existed. You wouldn't have. Black Ops 3. The Rift D9, 2-round burst energy weapon, slow projectiles, high damage, but really difficult to actually get kills with because of the fact that the projectile was there instead of a hit scan like every other pistol in the game. The Rift did it had 50 damage. I mean, that's something for each of the projectiles, so it was always a one-burst kill no matter where you were, but again, the fact that it was a slow-moving projectile instead of a hit scan or a fast-moving projectile made it one of the hardest pistols in the game to actually get good with. So why would you take it with you when you could throw on the MR6 or the RK5? You wouldn't. Pistols with much better fire rates and pretty respectable damage. The Rift, it was neat, I guess. And it had weirdly high damage against score streaks and equipment, but overall, wasn't worth using. Infinite Warfare. The EMC. Now, I think about the EMC the same way I think about the Atlas 45 from Advanced Warfare. Starting handgun in the game wasn't bad by any means, just wasn't strong enough compared to everything else in the secondary weapon category. Standard handgun, decent mag, decent damage, but when you compared it to everything else, it didn't have much going for it. Other pistols had better damage, quicker TTKs, bigger magazines, cooler gimmicks. The EMC was just a standard middle-of-the-road handgun that didn't do anything particularly well. For that reason, I deemed it the worst of the bunch. And like the Atlas, I guess you could say it's actually a good thing that the worst pistol in the game wasn't actually bad, but it was still the worst in the game, so here it is today. I mean, the Strife handgun was amazing. The Mozu was great. The Cat 45 DLC pistol was arguably the best secondary in the game. Now we arrive at COD World War II, the Reich's Revolver. Now, COD World War II launched with no revolvers, which was weird, but then Sledgehammer decided to add them in a patch, and one of the revolvers, it was really bad. One of the revolvers was a great COD revolver. The other one was the Reich's Revolver, which was this high fire rate, low damage revolver that couldn't even get a 2-shot kill. Now, let me ask you guys something. Why in the world, or what is the point of a 6-shot revolver that can't get a 2-shot kill? At that point, why would you even use it? If you need to use 3 bullets on somebody to kill them, why would you take a gun that literally caps itself at 6 rounds at a time instead of one of the magazine-fed pistols like the P08 or the 9mm SAP? I know some people say the machine pistol was the worst handgun in the game, and I almost put it here. But ultimately, I gave the spot to this gun. Now, I mean, why would I use a 6-shot revolver that can't get a 1-shot kill? And then you had to load the bullets individually instead of having the decency to give me a speed loader. The gun made no sense. Black Ops 4. The RK7 Garrison. The 3-round burst pistol that looked a whole lot like the M93 Raffica, but if you played Black Ops 4, you probably knew that it was nothing like the M93 once you started shooting people in the face with it. Yes, it was a 3-round burst. Yes, it had a high fire rate. Yes, it had low recoil, but the damage, it was non-existent. If you were playing in core game modes, it was pretty bad. Time to kill in Black Ops 4 is very long compared to other COD games, so a low-damage pistol like this with horrible range was not going to be able to keep up with the other weapons. And yes, the pistols in the game weren't designed to be super strong, and Treyarch was very open about the fact that the pistols in the game were supposed to be a last resort secondary weapon. But even then, the other pistols in Black Ops 4, a lot stronger. Modern Warfare 2019. The 1911. Sure, had a little more power behind the trigger than some of the other pistols in the game, but it also had way too much visual recoil for the amount of damage it was putting out, and you had to do way too much in the gunsmith if you wanted to make it remotely viable. Now, other pistols in Modern Warfare had better recoil control, better default ammo capacity, or they just didn't require nearly as much customization in the gunsmith to make them strong secondaries. The 1911 in this game needed way too much gunsmith love. It did. I don't think anybody else is going to make a strong case for this one. I don't. Black Ops Cold War. Let's stick with it. The 1911. Now, this game had some crazy pistols. The Magnum was super strong if you knew what you were doing. The Diamatti was busted. The Amp 63 was good. The Marshalls were toxic, but still strong. But then there was the little engine that could. The 1911, which was a standard semi-auto handgun with moderate damage and nothing else. Other pistols had way more potential, way more versatility. The 1911 wasn't bad on its own. It was just clearly the worst secondary weapon in the game because it required a lot more work for the user to get a decent amount of damage out of it, which doesn't necessarily make it a bad gun, but definitely makes it the worst gun in the category. Call of Duty Vanguard. The Closser. This was the Vanguard version of the Luger. Really not sure why they changed the name because it's not like the Luger is copyrighted, or maybe it is. I don't know. I just hate all the random new names for things in recent COD games, and maybe it was karma that the Closser was the worst pistol in the game. I don't know. Terrible ammo capacity, underwhelming damage, weirdly limited attachments in a game where they let you put 1 million attachments on your guns. That made no sense. The Closser, it sucked. Maybe if they kept the name Luger, it would have been better. Maybe not. I don't know. Let's move on. I don't like to stay on Vanguard any longer than we have to. Modern Warfare 2 2022. The X12. Truly a trash pistol for a truly trash game. Maybe that's not fair, but the X12 doesn't have anything to bring to the table. Generic version of the Glock, right? Appeared in tons of different Call of Duty games, and even though it did have good mobility and good recoil control, the damage doesn't give you very much to work with. And there's other pistols in the game that can more properly help you get quick kills in the game. They just can't. I don't know. Once again, let's move on quick. Modern Warfare 3 2023. The GS Magna, a full auto Desert Eagle, really should have been way cooler than this. I guess to be fair, it was a rollover weapon for Modern Warfare 2, but in that game, the time to kill was so much quicker or something like that was a bit more viable. But in Modern Warfare 3, that longer time to kill and faster movement meant the GS Magna, it wasn't viable anymore because you had the high recoil, you had the damage that was low. If you wanted a reliable pistol, there was a lot of better choices. If you wanted a high power pistol, there was a lot of better choices. Just didn't really seem to have a place in the game. Black Ops 6. The Strider 22. Now, I really don't know why this gun's in the game. High fire rate, low recoil, but horrible damage. Literally every other pistol in the game had a better time to kill, and even though the Strider had great accuracy and a pretty cool name, it's not like the other pistols in the game were particularly hard to control. If a gun like this is going to have appeal, it has to significantly be better than the others, and it wasn't. Black Ops 7. This is where I prove honesty. No clue. You guys know me. I'm not playing this game. I'm not going to act like I am playing this game. There might be good pistols. There might be bad pistols. I just can't tell you which ones are which, so I'm going to move on, and I'm going to let you guys decide in the comment section. And last but not least, COD Mobile. Shorty. I think this was supposed to be the COD Mobile equivalent of the Marshall 16. It's a 2-round sawed-off shotgun in a pistol's body, but I don't think it was good. The range was terrible, the one-shot kill range was inconsistent, and there's a million other pistols in the game that are more reliable in basically every situation. If you wanted a shotgun, you would use an actual shotgun. If you wanted a powerful pistol, you would just use a different pistol. There you have it, my friends. Let me know where you agree. Let me know where you disagree. I'll see you soon.